Hello and welcome to Roamin with the Rubes. I'm Lee, this is Joe, and in today's video we're going to be covering the topic of UHF CB radio.
Super handy thing to have when you're out travelling. We wouldn't be without ours. If you're thinking about getting one or you'd like to know a little bit more about UHF CB, this might be the video for you. Now, full disclosure, you'll notice there's quite a few Oricom product images in the video. We're not sponsored by Oricom, but I have bought some of the products and I'm very happy with them. And they had some really good product images, so we used it. So there you have it.
Okay, Joe, well, you better get to it.
There's a bit to do. So what is Citizen Band Radio, or as it's affectionately known, CB? CB Radio is a short-distance communication service governed by the Australian Communications and Media Authority, affectionately known as ACMA. They have a licensing scheme called the Citizen Band Radio Class Licence 2015, and I'll include a link in the description below and recommend you have a bit of a look at the governing rules and familiarise yourself, as there are some penalties if they're not followed properly. There are 2 CB bands in Australia. The HF 27 meg band, which was the first one. It's not used very much these days as it's quite noisy. And there is the UHF 476 to 477 megahertz band. This is the most popular one today, and this is the one we'll be covering in this video. There's no license required or any fees payable for a CB, which is a great deal. So what's allowed? You, of course, can do voice communication, and you can do telemetry and telecommand. We'll talk about that later on. UHF CB is excellent while travelling. You can follow the road conditions, be notified of wide loads coming. It's very useful when overtaking heavy vehicles, and you can also have a chat with fellow travellers or seek help in an emergency. We'll talk about that a little further on in the video too. CB equipment is quite affordable and easily installed in most vehicles. UHF CB basic specifications. These radios have 80 channels, 77 are available for use. The transmission mode is FM and the maximum allowed power is 5 watts. First up is the DIN-sized radio with 5 watts of power. These are perfect for vehicles with DIN-sized openings in their dashboards. They feature a large display and full-size controls and typically have a forward-facing speaker. Next is the compact size, also with 5 watts of power. They're much smaller and can be mounted in tight spaces like the side of your console. They feature a smaller display and controls, and the speaker is typically on the bottom of the radio. This next one's my favourite, the all-in-one handset style. Modern cars don't have many spots to mount a CB. These units have a compact 5 watt transmitter that you can mount, say, behind your glove box, and your mic, which has all the display speakers and all of the controls, can be mounted anywhere convenient. The plug and play kit is perfect for someone that doesn't want to permanently mount a CB. They feature a windscreen mount, cigarette lighter plug for the power connection, and a magnetic base antenna that you can pop on your roof. They're not as effective as a fully installed antenna, but certainly better than a walkie-talkie. Which is our next group? Walkie-talkies, or handhelds, or handy-talkies as they're sometimes called, are compact self-contained transceivers. Their power ranges from 1 watt up to 5 watts depending on the model, and usually come in pairs with a charger. Some have removable antennas that can be coupled to external, but most of them have like a flexible rubber ducky type antenna. These are super handy when it comes to spotting or positioning the caravan or camper. Or maybe not. Now let's have a look at antenna types. There's basically 3 types of whip antenna. The original is the stainless steel whip. I'm not a big fan of these. They tend to be very wobbly, and UHF, the way that it is, that wobble introduces some problems with your signal. I tend to stay away from these. Second type is the fiberglass whip. They're a solid fiberglass rod with a wire over the outside and usually a coupling coil or something like that. These are pretty good. They're quite robust. They don't sort of wobble as much as the stainless steel whip, and they're a good all-round, a good value for money. Last is the radome. These are a hollow fiberglass tube with a wire running up the inside of it. They're very robust, great for off-road and sort of tough conditions, but you will pay for them. They're also very rigid when you're driving, and they tend to keep your signal fairly stable. Let's have a little talk about antenna gain. Antenna gain is about the way that your antenna radiates its power. Now, if we have a look at a little quarter wave antenna, and we're going to look at the vertical radiation plot, you'll see that it looks like a donut, and the power is sort of being radiated fairly evenly from the base of the antenna. Now, as we move to antennas with gain, like this 4.5 dB one, we'll notice that the power is focused more towards the horizontal, so you're getting more effective radiated power towards the horizon. And then if we move again to 6 dB, you can see that it's even more so. At 6 dB, you're doing roughly 4 times the effective radiated power, so your 5 watt signal will sound like a 20 watt signal. That's not 4 times as strong though, folks. That increases about 1 S point on your radio, but it is significant. Anyway, you think to yourself, wow, beauty, let's go and get the highest gain antenna we can. And that'll be beaut. Not quite right. High gain antennas are really good when you're travelling on flat roads, but once you get into mountainous country and you're moving up and down hills and things like that, there are problems to be observed. Just have a look at this little diagram at what happens. Truth of the matter, 4.5 dB antenna is a really good all-rounder. It'll work well in the in the city, over hilly country, and on the flat road. If you want to get specialised for mountainous sort of roads, go get yourself a little quarter wave whip. You won't do better. But 4.5 dB, great all-rounder. Let's have a quick look at antenna mounts. The most common one is the bull bar mount. Very, very sturdy, great place to mount your antenna. If your bull bar doesn't have a mounting tongue on it, you can buy them that they'll sort of clip on, screw on. I have one of those. It's quite satisfactory. Next in the range is the bonnet mount. This will just sit in the gutter of your engine bay between the car body and the bonnet. You rivet it in through these couple of holes here, and they're quite good. The only thing I'd say is when you mount an antenna on it, there's a hell of a lot of leverage there. If you happen to hit something, you might actually damage the gutter in your engine bay. Next along is the gutter mount. If your roof has a gutter, you can use these gutter mounts to get your antenna up higher and take advantage of the extra range that it will offer. Same thing though as a bonnet mount. If you hit something, you might actually bend your roof gutter due to the leverage. The final item is the folding mount. Now this will go into any one of those antenna mounts and give you the possibility to fold your antenna down to get into low areas. Quite a handy little device. So the question you're probably wondering is, how far can I get with my CB? What sort of range have I got? Well, UHF signal is line of sight. If you can see it, you can probably talk to that person or talk to that vehicle. The other thing that affects it is the height of the antenna. Now typically in a four-wheel drive, your antenna's mounted on the bull bar, and it'll be about 1 metre to 1.5 metres high, depending on your vehicle. So how far will that get you with that antenna? There are some brilliant minds that have modelled it all and done some calculations, and the formula actually looks a little like this. But life's too short for that sort of rubbish. We've done the calculations so you don't have to. How far can you reach with your 1 metre antenna? The radio service horizon is about 4 kilometres. Now, if you happen to be talking to another car with an antenna 1 metre high, you can double that, 4 kilometres each, so about 8 kilometres. But that's in a perfect world. A bit like sitting in a boat on a perfectly flat ocean, you're going to get your 8 kilometres. The truth of the matter is, when you're driving, you've got hills and dales and bumps and obstructions and buildings and all sorts of things like that, and they will greatly reduce your range. Now, if you're in a situation where you do need to talk to somebody, the best thing you can do is get higher in elevation and stop. If your vehicle's not moving, you'll stand a much better chance of getting further in your transmissions. Now, we've prepared a table to show you just what does happen as you get higher. Let's have a look at it. In this chart, we're comparing what happens to the service distance or service range when you change the antenna height from 1 metre right up to 10 metres. Now, just going from 1 to 2 metres, or say having your antenna mounted on the bull bar versus the roof, you can see you're adding well over 1.5 kilometres of range to your signal. So the roof mounted antenna is definitely better, but probably a bit less practical, hey? So moving right along, you can see, typically adding 1 metre of height will add nearly 1 kilometre of range, right up to 10 metres height. For your antenna, if you find a small hill you can pop yourself up on, you're going to extend your service distance to the horizon right up to 13 kilometres. So if you happen to be talking to someone driving with a 1 metre mounted antenna, you can add another 4 kilometres to that. So around about 17k, just simply by going up 10 metres. Pretty impressive. Now let's have a look at what happens when we do some big height changes like getting up on major hills and mountains. Now I find this really impressive. At 100 metres, the service range is already 41 kilometres. 58 for 200, when we get to 500, 92 kilometres, all the way up to 1,000 metres where we've got 130 kilometres of range. That's why they stick repeaters on top of mountains to really extend the range that your UHF CB can reach. And speaking of repeaters, let's have a look at them. Normal CB operation is simplex, where the transmit and the receive frequency is on the same channel. Repeaters operate in duplex, where the transmit channel is 30 channels higher than the receive channel. Example, receiving on channel 1, transmitting on channel 31. This is so the transmitter won't interfere with the receiver. So here's our repeater, high up on the hill, overlooking the terrain, free of any obstructions, and an absolute line of sight view to both the vehicles that want to contact each other on channel 1 duplex. So let's see what happens. The vehicle on the left keys the transmitter on channel 1, which causes the CB to transmit on channel 31 to the repeater. The repeater immediately rebroadcasts what it's receiving from the car on the left on channel 1, and that's received by the car on the right. The vehicle on the right responds. The operator just hits the mic button and the CB will transmit on channel 31 to the repeater, which automatically rebroadcasts what it's hearing onto channel 1, which is received by the vehicle on the left. And a conversation can go on. You can operate repeaters when you're travelling, when you're driving, providing you're not using a really high gain antenna, as you might be a little bit disappointed with the results there. The easiest way to tell if you're in range of a repeater is to pick a channel between 1 and 8 and hit the transmit button. See if you get a repeater response like this. Yeah, quite a good access on that one. Before we head off on a trip somewhere, I always like to have a look and see what UHF repeaters are available in the areas that we're travelling to. Now, I've found this app, Australian UHF Repeater Finder, that works on the Android platform. Sadly, there's nothing on iOS, but I thought it'd be really good to mention this one here. I've looked at many tables on the internet that show all the repeaters, but sadly they're not kept up to date and there's a lot of information there that's probably redundant. This Australian UHF Repeater Finder uses the actual database from ACMA and doesn't look up that way. So everything you see is repeaters that are presently licensed. So it's not to say that they're actually active and operating, but it's certainly better than the redundant lists that are around. Okay, let's have a look at the controls and functions that your CB radio can have. These are model specific, so it might be a good idea to go grab your manual and keep it handy. Some manufacturers might use some different terms, so if you have your manual there, you can look and see if it's available on your set. So let's get cracking. Okay, let's just have a look at the basic functions that every CB has, and that's your power button. Just flick the radio on. You'll have a volume control. In this one, you've got these up and down arrows, so I can turn the volume up and down. Your radio might have a knob, it just depends. Next is the push to talk button. That's on the side of your microphone. When you press that, you'll transmit. When you let it go, it stops transmitting and is ready to receive. And then the last main one is the channel selector. So in this radio, I've got to hit the function button, and then I can go up and down with the channels. Okay, next let's have a talk about squelch. Most CB radios have three types of squelch. First up is the volume squelch. This mutes the signal of the channel you're monitoring. It has maybe 10 to 15 settings, which are signal sensitive, each progressively needing more signal to mute the radio. The low settings will mute the background static hash. The higher settings will mute low signal stations, allowing only strong, clear signals to come through. Just increase the squelch until you get rid of the offending signals. Most CBs have a monitor function that opens the squelch if you want to listen to a weak station. Okay, the next squelch system is tone squelch. Often referred to as CTCSS, or I'll look at my notes, continuous tone coded squelch system. Now this mutes your radio until an appropriate tone is detected, and then it'll open it up and let you receive the signal. This is really good if you're, say, traveling in a group and you don't want to be disturbed by other signals and that. All you have to do is make sure all of you have selected the same tone, and you'll be sweet. There's 38 tones in CTCSS, so pretty good chance that you're going to be, you're going to have your station locked off from other people. So the last squelch system is digital coded squelch, or DCS. It does much the same thing as CTCSS, however it uses a digital code instead of a tone in with your signal. Now DCS has about 100 codes, maybe up to 105 available, so you've got more codes that you can use. Refer to your manual to see what's available in your radio. Now the next set of functions we're going to talk about is scanning. There's many times when you're sort of traveling that you want to listen to more than one channel at a time. Say you're on channel 40, the highway channel, but you'd like to have a listen to the caravan channel to see if anything's happening there. Or you might like to also monitor the call channel, channel 11. Now CBs have scanning functions that allow you to do that. The radio will just scan through the channels. Whenever it picks up a reasonably strong signal, it will stop and let you have a listen to it. So let's go through the processes. So first up, you can set memory channels. You can select which channels you want to scan by adding them to your CB memory. Check your manual on how to do this. Once you've got some channels put into your memory, you can do an open scan. This simply just scans through all your memory channels and stops when there's a signal that's strong enough to be received. This is great if you want to monitor more than 2 or 3 channels. Dual scan. Many CBs have a menu option to select 2 channels and scan between them. Try watch. Some CB models have a menu option to select 2 channels and then include the current channel you're on a 3-channel scan. I use this a lot. Okay, let's talk about channels and what they're used for. Let's take a bit of a deep dive and have a look. First up are the general chat channels. There's 38 of these, and they're simplex channels. So you can pop onto any one of these for a bit of a chat with somebody, no problem at all. The channels are 9, 12 to 17, 19 to 21, 24 to 28, 39, 49 to 60, 64 to 70, and 79 to 80. Next up is the CB Special Purpose channels. These are all simplex and there's 6 of them. Channel 10 is the 4-wheel drive convoy, clubs and national parks channel. Channel 11 is the call channel. Once you establish a contact with someone else, move off to the general chat channels and continue your conversation there. Channel 18 is the caravan and campers convoy channel. Channel 29, Pacific Highway New South Wales, Bruce Highway Queensland road channel. Channel 30, that's the UHF CB broadcast channel, although I've got to admit I've never heard of any broadcasts there. And then finally we have channel 40. That is the highway channel, and it's used by truck drivers, pilots and escort vehicles. Now let's have a look at the UHF CB repeater channels. These are all duplex. And we're going to start off with the most important one, and that is channel 5 for receive, channel 35 for transmit. These are for emergency use only, and there's some severe penalties if that channel is abused. Then we just go through channel 1 to 8, and you can see all the inputs and outputs. We won't read them out for you there. Now, there is a second group of repeater channels on 41 to 48. I'm not aware of any active repeaters on those frequencies as yet. Now, the last group is the CB do not use channels, and there's 5 of them in all. The first 2 we'll look at is channel 22 and 23. These aren't for voice communications, they're for telemetry and telecommand. Basically, they're used for controlling, say, pumps and opening gates and so on, used a lot in rural Australia. If you hop on there and start talking, you could cause some interference to those services. Then channels 61, 62 and 63 are not allocated and reserved for future expansion, so don't use those either. Now, here's a closing handy hint. I really like these little all-in-one UHF CBs, and to keep it looking good and protected a bit, because they're in your car, they're going to cop the sun and the dust and everything. I use one of these, and it's just a sunglass case, you know, one of the cloth ones, microfiber. I just pull it over my my radio, slide it down there, and then it's soft enough that it'll go onto the mic handle, no problem whatsoever. And that protects your radio from the sun and the dust and whatever, and will keep it looking really nice for quite a while. Well, that's it. We hope you enjoyed that video and found the information useful. And if you'd like to get a fact sheet with lots of the information that we've provided today, you'll find it on our website. The link will be in the comment section down below.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give us a like. Consider subscribing to our channel. It's free.
We'll see you next video, folks.
Bye.
Bye.